conversation series of the CCJ for 2025. I have two very special guests. I'll introduce them in a moment. Let's first begin by saying that we're in Melbourne on the traditional lands of the Kulin Nations, and we pay our respects to their elders past, present, and emerging, which is something that our guests have been learning about for the last couple of days. So let me introduce our guests first. Both of them are here from the International Council of Christians and Jews, which has had its gathering in Melbourne in the first week of February. We have Kasia from Poland and David from America, who's the current president of the International Council of Christians and Jews. So let me begin by asking both of you, maybe ladies first, a little bit about your history, how you grew up and your education, but just in a couple of sentences.
So I come from Warsaw, from Poland, and I am Catholic. I was brought up in a Catholic family. I studied Catholic theology at the University, presently John Paul II in Krakow. And during the time, I got to know Judaism and meet Jewish people, and that led me also to meet Sisters of Zion. I became a Catholic nun and joined the congregation that is known for the Jewish-Christian relations. And that pushed me to go further and do my PhD in Jewish liturgy at the Obeck College in London.
Lovely. And David?
And my father was a rabbi and a scholar of both the Old and the New Testament. He was a pioneer in post-World War II Christian-Jewish dialogue. And so our home, our Shabbat dinner tables, our Pesach Sidarim, we always had Christian clergy, Christian scholars, priests, nuns at our table, so I kind of went into the family business. I did an undergraduate degree in Jewish studies. I also went to rabbinic school, became ordained. I did a doctoral studies in the history and literature of Judaism and Christianity in the Greco-Roman world, and I've spent a lot of my career in focusing on interreligious relations, Jewish Christian relations, and the trilateral relations between Jews, Christians, and Muslims.
Lovely. So that leads me to my next question, which is, obviously both of you are part of the executive of the International Council of Christians and Jews. Maybe tell me a little bit why you got involved, how you got involved, and what your current role is on the executive.
Well, I have been attending the conferences of the ICCJ off and on for the last 20 years or so, and was recently invited to be a consultant to the board of the ICCJ. And so I went to my first board meeting when they were talking about who was going to succeed the current president. And everybody looked around the room, and I suddenly found that they were looking at me. And so here I am.
As president of the organization.
That's correct.
Wonderful. And Kasia?
I was living abroad, and I came back to Poland 4 years ago, 4 years ago, and they elected me as the co-chair of the Polish Council of Christians and Jews. So we are both together, Professor Krajewski, who is the Jewish chair, and I am the Christian chair. And then there was an idea also came from the previous board that maybe I would be willing to put my name, or the people would put my name towards the board of ICCJ, because they thought that I have already quite experience in international Jewish Christian work. I lived in several countries where I was engaged in this work, and they thought that our organization will need me and I can something to contribute to the work of ICCJ.
Lovely, very interesting. So I just have a couple more questions. We don't like to do these interviews for very long. So my next question is, you've just been at the conference, the international conference of the International Council of Christians and Jews here in Melbourne. Are there any learnings or anything that you could take away as a result of your time here?
Yeah, I really like how you were at this conference immersed in the context, and I am deeply aware that each context very much influences the Jewish-Christian relations. We cannot put the methodology and how we engage in different countries to everywhere in the same. So I deeply appreciate the learnings that I got also from the from Aboriginal people, and also to learn how Jewish-Christian relations are done here in Australia and New Zealand.
Lovely. And David?
Well, I would echo what Kasia has just said. While I've been to Australia a couple of times, this is really the first opportunity for me to spend extended period of time with Australians rather than sort of as a tourist.
Mm-hmm.
As Kasia mentioned, each context is different. The Jewish community here in Australia has its unique qualities, including the close connection to so many Holocaust survivors.
Mm-hmm.
Then, of course, we also find ourselves now in the context of post October 7,
Mm-hmm.
Which has had ramifications all over the world, some of which are similar, but which, again, they're unique aspects to what's going on here.
Mm-hmm.
And the opportunity in terms of being an officer of the ICCJ to visit with one of our constituents, or really two of our constituent organizations here, and to learn from them what are their challenges, what are their successes, is something that's going to be very helpful for us as we continue to think about where the ICCJ needs to go from here.
Lovely. And almost last question. Now that you've been at this conference, and as you say, it's we're in the post-October 7 world, is there something that you could take away that's a bit more hopeful and a bit, that you could tell our audience that's something that they can look forward to in their journey into faith dialogue?
Well, one of the things that I would say is that when we were having our planning conferences, we asked, well, how many people do you expect are going to attend this conference? And the response is, well, we would be happy if we had 50.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it turned out that there were 70.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that shows that there is, at least among some people, a real interest and hunger for that kind of connection. That while they look out at the world and they see separation and that this is causing relationships to collapse, these are people who double down and say, at this time, specifically at this time, I want to connect. I want to learn more.
Mm-hmm.
For me, our relationships are so important, so I'm going to continue to try to sustain and build new ones. And that was a really wonderful opportunity to build new ones. And I was really happy to see some younger participants from different churches, for example, from Armenian Orthodox. I think this is the first time that I met at the ICCJ meeting from Armenian Orthodox Church, which is great, and also some other Christian dominations and Jewish younger people who want to be part of ICCJ and part of this work that we are engaged with. And I'm hoping that we will continue to build up toward this and also keep these relationships going.
Lovely. And just to finish off, finally, I believe this is your first time in Australia. Obviously, it's not your first time, but on this trip, what will you take away, something Australian that you'll take away into your life?
I just love the nature and the beauty of this country, and I would really wish to come and spend more time to get to know this country, culture, traditions, also the indigenous traditions. I'm in love with Australia.
And David?
Well, I would share, first of all, the beauty. My wife, who joined me on this trip, we spent a few days in Hobart.
Mm-hmm.
And again, very beautiful, but one of the things that I learned a lot more about was the history of the convicts,
mm-hmm.
and
particularly in
Tasmania, and the incredible harshness and cruelty with which they were treated. And I connect that as well to, and I realize they're very different, but I connect that as well to the treatment of the Aboriginal peoples as well, and how much the abuse of peoples is part of the history, but then watching how this society is trying to come to grips with that. I mean, even just that you opened this with the land acknowledgement. You know, in my country, where there is a analogous history, we're not even close to that yet. And I found it very moving.
Yeah, who knows, we might not be closer this one.
Well, you're closer than we are. So.
Yes. Well, thank you very much. Thank you. It's lovely to hear affirmations of our country. Thank you very much for that. And it's wonderful that you had a great time and a great conference. So I commend you on choosing Australia to hold the conference. As one of the host organisations, we thank you for that. So thank you very much. And again, thank you for joining me at this conversation. And we look forward to future conversations. Thank you very much.
Okay.